We shall next discuss proof techniques. So, we have been discussing first order logic in detail. In fact, the purpose of this course is to bring formalism, and in the process of bringing formalism, we brought in abstraction. And the first level of abstraction is to convert or represent the given context or a statement in something called a first order logical notation or representation. And after representing them in first order logical notation, we were interested in knowing whether a given argument or a paragraph or a set of statements, compound statement, is true or false. And in an attempt to prove this, we have used a couple of implications and equivalences which we kind of established its proof of correctness. Most importantly, we have said, for example, P and P imply Q is Q, which is a tautology. And for example, you may use truth table to show this, or you may look at possible values for, which is in other words truth table. You look at possible values for P and Q, and with respect to all of them you say P and P imply Q is Q. In some sense, before we make use of implications or equivalences, one should establish its proof of correctness. So, although not under this head, we have seen some of the proofs while we were discussing logic as well. And to prove that a given argument is true, for example, when we discussed case studies such as some real numbers are rational and all rational numbers are not irrational, therefore some real numbers are not irrational. And things like that, on the face of it, it may appear true, but one should give a formal argument. So when I say formalism or abstraction, what we did is we converted them into first order logical expression, and then we started applying well-known identities and so on. So argument like this, some real numbers or rational and things like that, and one can use logic and either truth table based method, or we were discussing for all x p of x and q of x is for all x p of x and for all x q of x, right? We applied the definition, then we brought in associativity, and further we simplified it. This kind of proof is called direct proof. You use well-known axioms, identities to establish the proof of correctness or to check whether conclusion follows from the given premise. But this is okay, and one can prove most of the claims using direct proofs. But there are case studies for which we need sophisticated techniques. We need sophisticated tools using which we would be able to say whether conclusion follows from the given premise. Or there are case studies where direct proof will not help us in establishing the result. However, the given claim is true. Given claim is true, but we don't have sufficient handle with just the direct proof technique. So we need different or sophisticated techniques to establish some of the claims. So now what we shall see from now on, what some sophisticated proof techniques and specific case studies. We will see how to prove using proof technique number 2, 3 and so on. That would be the focus for some more lectures. And the techniques that we will be discussing as part of this series are something that we have seen before in the context of logic, something called direct proof, and the next one is called proof by contraposition. So you are asked to prove this given P, establish Q, and this is equivalent to showing negation Q imply negation P. As part of direct proof, what is that we did? Assuming P, we derived or we concluded Q. For example, P consists of some real numbers are rational. So P could be a collection of statements. So it could be something like some real numbers are rational and all rational numbers are not irrational. And Q could be something like, therefore, some real numbers are not irrational. Okay, so things like this. So what is that we did? Assuming this using well-known identities implications, we arrived at Q. This is called direct proof. Assuming premise and derive the conclusion. This says, and either you can assume P and arrive at Q, or you can also assume negation Q and arrive at negation P. So proving this is equivalent to proving this. So meaning, when we looked at this case study, for example, for all x, P of x and Q of x implies for all x P of x and for all x Q of x. Assuming this, one has to prove this. So this is my P and this is our Q. So what it says is, to prove this, you can also take negation Q, which is negation of this. So negation for all x Px or for all x Qx, assuming this, derive negation P, which is negation for all x P of x and Q of x. This is called a proof by contraposition. Assuming premise P, you arrive at Q, and instead of doing this, one can also assume negation Q and derive negation P. Then there is something called proof by contradiction. So what is this? So P imply Q. Assuming P, one should derive Q. So what we will do is, we will assume negation Q along with P, which means what? Assume Q is false. Q does not follow. So premise P is given, you are asked to derive Q. Now along with the premise P, I am also assuming negation Q, which means Q does not follow. So Q is false. Then you start simplifying using well-known identities, implications, axioms and so on. And while doing this, you will arrive at some contradiction. So for example, now P is given, you are also assuming negation Q, and then you start simplifying. When you start simplifying, and you may arrive at some contradiction. For example, you may arrive at negation P, which is not true, because what is given to you is P, but when you start simplifying, suppose you arrive at negation P, which means you are contradicting the premise. So your assumption that negation Q is true or Q is false is wrong. Or you arrive at contradiction to some well-known identities. So we may arrive at contradiction to the premise, which is P, meaning you may arrive at negation P, or you may get contradiction to some well-known identity which we have proved in some other part of mathematics. So then if such a thing comes, what is that it is telling you, or what triggered me to arrive at such a contradiction? If you go back and see, it is because of the assumption that negation Q is true or assumption that Q is false. So our assumption is false, so Q follows. And this is something very heavily used in mathematics, in particular in the field of discrete mathematics, in proving many well-known claims. Let's look at a case study for proof by contradiction. So I want to show that root 2, this is my claim. We want to show that root 2 is irrational. So we want to show that the number root 2 is irrational. So I am assuming, look at the flow. So I am saying assume the claim is false, which means assume root 2 is rational. Then bring sequence of logical implications. When you say root 2 is rational, then any rational number can be expressed as a by b for some integers a and b. In particular, I express in the simplified form such that GCD of a comma b is 1. Suppose you write say 18 by 2. I'll not write 18 by 2, I'll simplify them to say 9 by 1. And you have something like say 12 by 4, I'll not write 12 by 4, I'll simplify that. You will simplify this in such a way that GCD of a comma b is 1. So, I mean, formally when you write, you say GCD of a comma b is 1, and which is equivalent to saying you write a comma b in such a way that it cannot be simplified any further. Okay, that's all we say. And it's a rational number, so it can be expressed in this form, but while writing, you write it in the simplified form. We will see what advantage we get because of this statement. So now what we do, you square on both sides. So from this, I'll get 2 equals a square by b square. Okay. So squaring on both sides. Now from this we get a square is equal to 2b square. So what do we get from this? A square is equal to 2b square, which means a square is even. Correct? Now we are saying a square is even, therefore a is even. correct? One can also establish that proof, and after squaring on both sides, when you simplify, you get a square is equal to 2b square, which means that it 2 times something. This shows that a square is even. Now I am saying because a square is even, I am concluding a is also even. Now we see that a is also even. Suppose a is not, okay, so which means a is some 2k plus 1 for some integer k, correct? And you say it is not an even number and it's going to be no odd number. Formally, how do you write? You write this. Now you look at a square. If you look at a square, you get 4k square plus 4k plus 1. And this one is even, sorry, this one is an odd number, which is contradicting this fact, and which is contradicting this fact. So on one side we have established a square is even, and we want to show a is even. Suppose not, so a is an odd number, so a equals 2k plus 1 for some integer k greater than or equal to 0. Now if you compute a square, you see that it's an odd number, but it's contradicting this. This implies that our assumption is incorrect, therefore a is even. Okay, it's like within this proof by contradiction we have a small climb, and that also involves proof by contradiction. If a square is even, then a is even. How did we establish this? Using the proof by contradiction. Suppose it is not, and then you get contradiction to the premise itself. That is what we initially told, right? Now a is even. Now look at this equation. A square is equal to 2b square. If you look at this equation and substitute this, so a is even, which means a equals some, say, 2l for some integer l and greater than or equal to 0. Now 2l square is 2b square, correctly? Yeah. So now if you simplify from this, you get b square is equal to, this is 4l square by 2, so you get 2l square. This means b square is even. Similar to this proof technique, you can also show that b is even. So I repeat this until this part. We wanted to show root 2 is irrational. We are running a proof by contradiction. So we first assume root 2 is rational. Then bring in the definition. It is of the form a comma b for some integers a and b. We are not taking some expression a by b. Instead, we are taking this in the simplified form, meaning GCD of a comma b is 1. Fine. Now square on both sides, you get 2 equals a square by b square, you get a square equals 2b square. Now from this we conclude because it is 2 times something, we say a square is even. Now we want to show that a is also even. Suppose not, suppose a is not even, a is an odd number, which means a equals 2k plus 1 for some integer k greater than or equal to 0. Compute a square, you see that a square is odd, which is contradicting this part. And therefore, our assumption that it is not an even number is incorrect, and a is even. So our assumption is odd. So assumption is false. Therefore, a is even. Now go back to this. A square is equal to 2b square. Just now we have established a is even. So a is 2l for some integer l greater than or equal to 0. So from this you see that b square is also even. If you run a similar proof, you can show that b is also even. Okay, and revisit this. So now a is even and b is even. That's what we have arrived at so far. Correct? Which means what? This implies that GCD of a comma b, this is even, so it is 2, 4 and so on, at least 2. This is also even, it could be 2 or 4 or 10, 100, it could be some. Both are even numbers, which means GCD of this is at least 2. Correct? But that is contradicting what? This is a contradiction to our initial representation that GCD of a comma b is 1. So when we represented the rational number, we said we don't choose some AB, we only choose AB in such a way that GCD of a comma b is 1. But after doing all this, we see that we get a contradiction to our earlier representation. So now, if you see, this statement comes from the fact that b is even and a is even. Within this, you see a direct proof. It follows logically. One statement follows from the other. Again, this one statement follows from the other, so there is no issue. So establishing this, there is no issue. That all comes from this part. So now, if you go back, where is the flaw? Where is the flaw? Because of what this contradiction is arrived at. If you just follow, backtrack and see, it is because of the assumption. So this follows from this follows from this follows from this, and this entire thing rests on this. And there are no assumptions in any of this. Which means the only assumption that we made is at this point in time. So our assumption is false. So our assumption that root 2 is rational is false. Therefore, root 2 is irrational. So when we arrive at a contradiction, we have to see this contradiction is triggered by which statement. And this comes from this comes from this. So each statement is logically kind of follows logically from the previous statement. So you will have to go back and see which actually triggered this contradiction. And so this is an independent module, and there are no assumptions here. Similarly, this part, it's an independent module, there are no assumptions here, and this comes from this, and this we represent in such a way that GCD is GCD of a comma b is 1, which is correct, valid, and all this because of this statement. So which means this assumption is incorrect, therefore root 2 is irrational. And this is the general idea. So you want to prove something, you assume it is false, then start simplifying. Somewhere you get a contradiction to the premise or your earlier representation or your earlier observation, and at that point in time you say your assumption is false, and therefore the conclusion follows. This is a typical style associated with proving claims based on proof by contradiction. We will see some more case studies to appreciate this proof technique.